And for the first time since the crisis began, democracy was represented, and it wasn't imposed on us what we can and can't do by this command council, what we should and shouldn't do by this command council, by what we can and can't do by this command council. It was actually pressed on them to give way to the will of the people, and it was the first time since this crisis has begun. My name is Dean Haystack, the Dean, and you're listening to The Coffee Conversation. Cyril Ramaphosa. I'm trying to make sense of the man. I really like him. I listened to him speak. The speech that he gave when he first took over as president was the most hopeful speech that I've heard in years in South Africa, for all South Africans. When he says things like the people of South Africa, he seems to stay away from the phrase our people, because most times when politicians in South Africa talk about our people, they're not talking about everybody. They seem to, I'm not actually sure who they're speaking about. They seem to maybe be only referring to the people who will serve them, whoever that might be. As a white South African, I certainly don't feel that they're speaking about me. But when President Ramaphosa says the people of South Africa, I do feel included in what he's saying. And every intention that he's made seems to be there. Now, when he was elected as president, he said in order to get the position of president, he had to make a deal with the devil. And the devil was in his own party. And he was against land appropriation without compensation. But in order to be elected in the position, he had to accept that land appropriation without compensation was something that was going to happen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got elected. But from the beginning, he said, we can't have land appropriation without doing it responsibly. And my way of wording that is land appropriation without competence. So whether it's with compensation or without compensation, land appropriation without competence is the greatest danger we face in land appropriation, not the land appropriation itself. And he's kind of put himself in that position to try and be to get it done responsibly, even though he doesn't even want to get it done. It reminds me of a story of a guy. I read a book. There was this Jewish guy in a concentration camp, and he was the Germans' lackey. He was hated by the other prisoners in the concentration camp because the Germans used to say to him, go fetch the children, go fetch the women, go fetch the men and take them to the gas chambers. Get the bodies out the gas chambers. You go and pull their teeth out and bring us the gold. And he was the lackey who had to do this. So the Jews and the other prisoners absolutely hated him. But towards the end of the book, you see in the story how the guy had positioned himself there deliberately because of his love for his people, because he knew that it was going to happen. He knew that they were going to the gas chamber. He knew that they were going to be murdered and tortured. He knew that they were going to be mutilated afterwards. And he said, if somebody else is going to do it, I want to do it for my people, because in leading them to the gas chamber, I can treat them like humans. And in dragging their bodies out, I can give them dignity. In even ripping the teeth out of their faces, I cannot mutilate it. And I can preserve them by burying them with a decent burial, and at least I can pray over them. And he positioned himself in this hateful position to try and do his best to serve his people. It sounds similar to Cyril Ramaphosa. Squirrel, my man. He's in this hateful position. He has enormous opposition from those outside the party, certainly, but he has the same amount, if not more, opposition from those inside his political party, and they're trying to oust him, and he knows that he has to toe a line in order to keep his position. The burden of that is astronomical. Must be. There was a massive victory for democracy on Tuesday. On Sunday, we got level 3 announced for the 1st of June, but on Tuesday, after pressure from Reverend Kenneth Mashu from ACDP, the Command Council was forced to consider making spiritual worship an essential service. This was supported by President Ramaphosa and pressed by him because he also believes that the spiritual lives of people are valuable. So forget about the spiritual aspect of it. Consider the democracy that he, as a president, positioned himself to hear the voice of many, many people and then support it in order to do what he believes is right. Now, I don't know if everything that he believes is right, but what did come through, and I'm very grateful for, is that he heard the voice He supported it. And for the first time since the crisis began, democracy was represented, and it wasn't imposed on us what we can and can't do by this command council, what we should and shouldn't do by this command council, by what we can and can't do by this command council. It was actually pressed on them to give way to the will of the people, and it was the first time since this crisis has begun that that has happened. And I take my hat off to Cyril Ramaphosa and Kenneth Mashu for pressing this and getting it done. So to try and work out Cyril Ramaphosa, I personally think he is a good guy who wants to do what's right. I don't know if he knows everything that's right, but who the heck does? But I think he cares about the country. I believe he cares about the people, but he's under enormous opposition. So I think we need to stop pointing fingers at him. We need to stop accusing at him, shouting at him, and blaming him for everything. And maybe what we do is, where we disagree, maybe we can humble ourselves to appeal to him to listen to our voice. I don't think he's the bad guy that people make him out to be. His speeches, specifically when he came in to his position of authority, were very, very powerful and spoke to the hearts of most of us as South Africans. His opposition is enormous in his own party, and unless the people of South Africa unless we actually, never mind what we want, unless we stand by him, if we can find goodness in him and stand by him, he will be ousted. And then who are we going to get? Who's next in line? I don't think this is a case of the devil we know rather than the devil we don't. I'm saying I don't think he's the devil that he's made out to be. Before he got elected, I don't know how many people I spoke to, white and black, said Cyril Ramaphosa would be a good president. All of a sudden when he's in, we've changed our tune because we aren't getting what we want exactly the way we want. Is it even possible for him to choose that? Because is he a president with authority, or is he merely just a representative of a collective of the ANC, which is factioned at the moment, which is at war with itself at the moment? And unless he tread carefully, he might lose his position to at least stand in for the people, knowing that bad stuff is going to happen, but trying to get it done responsibly and with our dignity and still caring about us. I think I would trust a person like that more than someone who proclaimed to be something else. My name is Dean Haystack, and I'm just a guy who gives a damn.